Hello, I'm Ross Walker, Chief UK Economist at NatWest Markets. In 2020, we think there are two overarching macroeconomic themes in the UK. Firstly, policy activism, monetary policy and fiscal. And secondly, the Brexit process, negotiating the UK's future trade deal with the EU. So starting with policy, we are still looking for 2 quarter-point cuts in Bank of England interest rates, even after the January policy meeting where the Bank of England seemed to row back a little bit in terms of its dovish policy guidance. In our view, the UK economy is going to struggle this year. We're going to see another year of sub-trend economic growth, probably rising unemployment, hesitant business investment, and subdued consumer demand. And that backdrop means policymakers will almost certainly have to respond, in our view, by lowering interest rates a little bit further. So 2 quarter-point cuts in bank rates, one in the spring, perhaps around May, a follow-up cut in the third quarter of this year is our central forecast. Alongside the monetary policy stimulus, we will see an expansionary fiscal policy for the first time in a number of years in the UK. Ahead of the election, there were some sizable public spending announcements, and then during the election campaign, the governing party's manifesto included further stimulus measures, public sector investment spending on infrastructure, roads, rail, etc., alongside probably some modest tax cuts. And in aggregate, we think that fiscal expansion will be worth around 0.75% of GDP, so potentially accounting for more than half of the economic growth we expect in the UK this year. On the second issue, the second main theme for 2020, the Brexit process, the UK has now formally left the EU at the end of January. We enter a transition period to the end of 2020, and during that time, the task is to negotiate some form of trade deal. Now, that limited time frame, just 11 months in total to negotiate and ratify a trade deal, alongside the UK government's red lines on various issues, so no labour mobility, no large financial transfers and so on, suggests that the trade deal that emerges by the end of this year will be relatively limited, something akin, we think, to the EU's trade deal with Canada. So no tariffs on trade in goods, but still some border checks, some extra bureaucracy, some barriers to frictionless trade in goods, and perhaps our biggest concern, the absence of any comprehensive arrangements for large parts of the service sector, which we fear will create some additional uncertainty for those businesses and perhaps hold back business investment and hiring in the near term. That's our outlook for 2020. Thank you for following us. Please stay tuned via social media and our websites.